I've met a lot of people who've claimed to be Christians, and I've asked them a couple of questions about Christianity, and then realized that they have no idea what they're talking about. If you actually do a search on J.D. Vance and his comments about his wife, there's a lot of Indian news outlets that are really coming at him strongly about these things. So you'll see quite a bit of things coming at him for the comments he made, which is understandable because he made a comment about his wife who is Hindu, and so it makes sense why you get a lot of Indian outlets that are commenting on it, speaking about it, and sort of thinking that it's an incorrect way. But the dialogue is what's seriously concerning to me. So I'm going to post a couple of things for you guys to read, and then we'll go in and watch the actual video of him answering the question, and I'll give some commentary on it. I was scrolling through X, and then here's one of the kind of headlines that I saw. It says, opinion, J.D. Vance wants his Hindu wife to convert. What if an Indian leader said this? I'm assuming what they mean is, what if an Indian leader said, suppose the roles were switched, right? The VP of the United States was Usha, and she said, you know, my husband is a Catholic, and there wouldn't be anything that I would want most, or I would really like to see him become Hindu. What if they said this? And my immediate reaction to this, I'm sitting in my office all alone by myself, you know what my immediate reaction was? I would hope so. That's what my reaction was. I would absolutely hope that an individual who holds something to be true, and I think it's pretty established, and if it's not, we'll establish it, that religious views are exclusive. If you think your religion is right, you think all the other ones are wrong. Okay? That's just the reality of this situation. And then on the side, she wrote this whole kind of blurb. She said, Vance's public remarks cast his wife's faith as a kind of problem to be fixed, a soul yet to be moved. It's the image of a husband proselytizing to the woman who has only ever supported him. She gave up her career for him, trusted him enough to make 3 children with him. This feels like betrayal dressed as piety. First and foremost, you're not his wife. You don't know how she feels about him. And they could have these conversations in their home all the time. You have no idea what she feels betrayed and this and that. I just go away. Goes on to say the thing with J.D. Vance is he may have been great so far as a husband, but he feels the pressure now, the closer he gets to the Oval Office. And instead of standing up to it, he's bending rather than defending his wife's dignity. He's giving into the noise, treating his wife's faith like a political liability. And here it comes, all while trying to please the MAGA base that treats it like a revulsive blot. As husband and a leader, he has a responsibility to do better. But he is recklessly monkey balancing at best, and at worst, joining in on the religious harassment of his own wife. Religious harassment. I can't make this stuff up. It's a terrible look. It reeks of a weak morals and tacit betrayal in love and in a leadership. My very simple response to that is, you have no idea what you're talking about when it comes to dialogue about religions. Particularly in this case, you have no idea about what Christianity teaches. And if somebody were to hold to Christianity being true, what they are aligning themselves to. Now, let me give a little background from the not so extensive research I've done on J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance and his wife got married in 2014. Now, they had met each other at university. And both of them seems to me from reading in between the lines, both of them were pretty like agnostic, not necessarily atheist, but pretty agnostic on faith in God. J.D. Vance got baptized into the Catholic Church in 2019. He got married to a woman who shared in his worldview at the time when they got married. She was neither a practicing Hindu, she grew up in a Hindu household, but pretty agnostic, and so was he, so that made sense, and they got married together. And then he became Catholic, and she didn't. And they've gotten divorced, thank God, and they've continued their relationship and have children together. Here's a comment J.D. Vance left. The original comment is no longer available on X. Essentially, this was a negative comment. So let me zoom in here. He says, what a disgusting comment. And it's hardly been only one along these lines. First off, the question was from a person seemingly to my left. We'll look at kind of his whole response to the question. About my interfaith marriage, I'm a public figure and people are curious, and I wasn't going to avoid the question. Second, my Christian faith tells me the gospel is true and is good for human beings. My wife, as I said at the TPUSA, is the most amazing blessing I have in my life. She herself encouraged me to re-engage with my faith many years ago. She is not a Christian and has no plans to convert. But like many people in an interfaith marriage or any interfaith relationship, I hope she may one day see things as I do. Regardless, I'll continue to love and support her and talk to her about faith and life and everything else because she is my wife. I mean, I love that comment, by the way. Like, hey, I'm going to talk to her about all of these things because she's my wife. I talk to my wife about all sorts of things. People don't seem to understand, like, the divisiveness in people's minds that you can't disagree on things and be married on important things is like kind of blows my mind that you'd actually have conversations. Third, posts like this wreck of anti-Christian bigotry. Yes, Christians have beliefs, and yes, those beliefs have many consequences. And what he means here is Christianity is exclusive as a worldview, as a religion, meaning that if you don't go to heaven unless it's through Jesus. And that would exclude his wife by definition. And yes, those beliefs have many consequences, one of which is that we want to share them with other people, meaning share the gospel, share those beliefs with other people. That is completely normal. That's a completely normal thing. And anyone who's telling you otherwise has an agenda. Brilliant statement. Very, very well said, because the reality is Christianity has a position. Christianity has many positions, and that we tell people because we love people, we want everyone to become a Christian. That should be the heart of the Christian. Anybody who claims to be a Christian and comes out and says, well, I'm not here to convert people and I'm not necessarily the X, Y, and Z, along those lines, my response simply would be this. Number one, they're lying for many reasons. They could be being cowards in the moment. It could be that they're scared to lose their job or public response to it. It could be many different reasons, but they're lying. Or they're absolutely ignorant of what Christianity actually teaches. I've met a lot of people who are on that side of things. I've met a lot of people who've claimed to be Christians, and I've asked them a couple of questions about Christianity and then realized that they have no idea what they're talking about. Absolutely zero about what Christianity actually teaches on the subject. And I think J.D. Vance is actually being like theologically aware. This lady got up and asked a question. The question was very long. Highly recommend you guys go see it. But the question was very long. It involved immigration. It involved his wife, the way they raise their children, their interfaith marriage. And so this is the part where everybody's kind of losing their minds over. Here's what he says.
Grew up Christian. I think it's fair to say that she grew up in a Hindu family, but not a particularly religious family in either direction. In fact, when I met my wife, we were both, I would consider myself an agnostic or an atheist, and that's what I think she would have considered herself as well. You know, everybody has to come to their own arrangement here. The way that we've come to our arrangement is she's my best friend. We talk to each other about this stuff. So we decided to raise our kids.
So it's very important to know that his wife's in the audience when he's saying these things. Kind of points towards her. His wife is in the audience. And he says, hey, look, we've made this arrangement. We've talked it out. She's my best friend. We've had these conversations. And this is what tells me that his wife might not be, she might still be an agnostic, that they made a decision. The Christian faith is so important to him, and Hinduism doesn't seem to be that important to her. And so she's maybe okay. I'm, again, guessing here and reading between the lines. Maybe she's okay with the kids just being raised Christian because she's like, I'm not going to raise them Hindu. Like, I don't really believe that stuff either. But she's not antagonistically against Christianity. And she loves her husband, and she's like, cool, let's raise him that way.
Kids Christian. Our two oldest kids who go to school, they go to a Christian school. Our 8-year-old did his first communion about a year ago. That's the way that we have come to our arrangement. But thank you. My 8-year-old was also very proud of his first communion. Thank you, guys. I'll tell him that Ole Miss wishes him the best. But I think everybody has to have this own conversation when you're in a marriage. I mean, it's true for friends of mine who are in Protestant and Catholic marriages, friends of mine who are in, atheist and Christian marriages. You just got to talk to the only advice I can give is you just got to talk to the person that God has put you with, and you've got to make those decisions as a family unit. For us, it works out. Now, most Sundays, Usha will come with me to church. As I've told her and I've said.
That's the other hint, that she actually goes to church with him on Sundays, that she might not be committed as people might think to her Hinduism.
Publicly, and I'll say now in front of 10,000 of my closest friends, do I hope eventually that she is somehow moved by the same thing that I was moved in by church? Yeah, I honestly do wish that, because I believe in the Christian gospel, and I hope eventually my wife comes to see it the same way. But if she doesn't, then God says everybody has free will, and so that doesn't cause a problem for me. That's something you work out with your friends, with your family, with the person that you love. Again, one of the most important Christian principles is that you respect free will. Usha's closer to the priests who baptized me than maybe I am. They talk about this stuff. My attitude is you figure this stuff out as a family, and you trust in God to have a plan, and you try to follow it as best as you can, and that's what I try to do. And yeah.
So, brilliant response, by the way. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it, unless the people that see something wrong with it just do not understand religious dialogue. I've been having religious dialogue with people for a very long time. By that, I mean dialogue revolving around religion. Folks think that somehow you're going against your own religion or something like that if you make the claim that you think other religions are wrong. Look, as a Christian, you are by default in the category of thinking everybody else who's not a Christian is wrong. Those are the consequences to the Christian belief system. Now, you might say, well, Arthur, that Christianity is so harsh. How could Christianity teach that other religions are wrong? Like, okay, so what do other religions teach? Do Muslims think that everybody else is right? Oh, wait, no, they don't. They think everybody else is wrong. What about Jews? Do Jews think everybody else is right? Oh, no, Jews think everybody else is wrong. And I should say, let me rephrase that. What does Judaism teach? Or what does Islam teach in regards to what Christianity teaches, right? So what does Hinduism teach? So Hinduism teaches that there are many gods. This is one of the things that Hinduism teaches, is that there are many gods. Christianity denies that there are many gods. In response, does Hinduism accept Christianity? Well, it doesn't, because Hinduism is as exclusive as any worldview who makes strong claims like that. So the Hindus and Hinduism, doesn't think Christianity is right. So they're exactly in the same boat as us. Like if Usha was actually a practicing Hindu, she would stand next to JD, let's just say, and say, well, I think he's wrong. And he thinks I'm wrong. I mean, even if she's still an agnostic, whatever, / atheist, she would still get up and say, well, I think my husband's wrong. Like, I appreciate that, he's had this spiritual experience and he's become Catholic and X, Y, and Z, but I think he's wrong because I don't think God exists, or I don't think we can know that God exists. Like, that's just normal dialogue. And then you can still be in a good relationship with an individual like that. Now, they're married. What do people want them to do? Get a divorce? Christianity doesn't allow for that. So I'm going to throw in some things in regards to what Christianity says. There's nothing within the Bible that teaches you can get divorced from your spouse because of the beliefs that they hold. Going with their trajectory, right? Going with their story is they were both, say, agnostic, got married together, one of them becomes a Christian. There's nothing that's justifiable for him to now say, well, I'm going to leave my wife because I've become a Christian and she's not, so he can't do that, which means he has to work very hard now to find common ground with his wife about the way they run their family. And he said, look, we've talked about this stuff and we found some of that. And one of those things is that we send our kids to Christian school, and she has no plans to converting. She doesn't necessarily want to, but I want her to. And let me just, like, at face value, just say this. I mean, who wouldn't if you actually love someone? If he actually loves his wife, would he not want his wife to become a Christian? If he thinks Christianity is true and it's the best thing that there is, the greatest news that there is, and that people who don't confess Jesus and believe in Jesus are going to spend eternity disconnected and away from him, why would he not want his wife to become a Christian? It would be a devilish thing for him to do, is to say, well, I don't care what my wife, I don't care what her beliefs are. We'd look at that and say, dude, do you actually love your wife? You don't care where she's going to spend eternity. You don't care about her eternal destiny. Penn Jillette from Penn and Teller, the magicians, and look what he says here.
He was really kind and nice and sane, and then gave me this Bible. If you believe that there's a heaven and hell, and people could be going to hell or not getting eternal life or whatever, and you think that, well, it's not really worth telling them this because it would make it socially awkward. How much do you have to hate somebody to believe that everlasting life is possible and not tell them that? I mean, if I believed, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that a truck was coming at you and you didn't believe it, that truck was bearing down on you, there's a certain point where I tackle you. And this is more important than that.
So you understand that. And I love what he says, how much do you have to hate someone to believe all these things about eternal life and then not tell them? And here's a guy, J.D. Vance, the vice president of this country, probably the next president of this country, standing there saying, look, I love my wife. She's my best friend. I want her to see the world as I see the world because I think the way I see the world is true. And people are losing their minds over it. How insanely ridiculous do you have to be as a person to not realize when you hold certain things to be true that excludes everything else that is contrary to that thing? Because that's how logic works.